Hello and welcome to the Daily Dominion for November 25th, 2024. This is looking like base plus alchemy, but only 3 alchemy cards. um, Still potentially pretty impactful, if only because of Apprentice. I don't really see wanting to go for Familiar. I mean, Apprentice is not like a particularly fast trasher, admittedly. But when there's Militia on the board, I don't really want to open Potion at the very least. Maybe we pick up a Potion later. I mean, it would be nice potentially to get Vineyards, although there's no plus actions, so it's definitely awkward. There's also no plus buy, so it's definitely awkward. um, yeah, like workshopping for some merchants or whatever would be nice, but if we can draw without it, we probably don't really want to do that. Anyway, we're gonna go Militia, and we're gonna go Silver. We're gonna hit 5. That's great. They had to discard at least 1 copper. That's also great. They at least won't hit 5 this turn. I think it's Apprentice first. Okay, now the question is, do we want a second Silver or do we want a Merchant? This is definitely a board where we can get all the money we need just off of cantrip coin with Merchant, plus potentially Poacher, I guess. I don't know. I don't know if we would ever actually take Poacher. Like, we might. And then, like, we draw with Lab, get some more coins with Militia. So the only reason really to get the second Silver now is just because the expectation is right now the Merchant won't collide with the Silver. And it also means that we don't need to get as many of them to hit Province. Yeah, I think we do take 1 more Silver. Okay. They go with Poacher. I think between Poacher and Merchant, oh, they did get an Apprentice? When did they get an Apprentice? Ow. Well, they must have had Militia and Silver in the same hand. So they have Militia, Silver, Copper to hit 5 on the 3-card hand. So I was wrong. They did hit 5 that turn. That sucks. Okay. So anyway, I don't really believe in the potion. It would be nice to play with a workshop. There will be a stretch of the game where we're not that likely to collide it with Militia. Starts. I mean, if anything, I should have picked it up last turn if we were going to do that, though. Then Poacher versus Merchant. I mean, Poacher's going to be better right now. Eventually, Merchant might be better, but that's not even clear. Like, that will actually empty, like, labs or whatever. So, yeah, I guess we go with Poacher. All right, yeah, Lab or Second Apprentice. If we were having to deal with curses, it would be Second Apprentice, no question. But, and if we were gonna like play with Bandit, same thing. Draw big with Apprenticing Golds, but These like base heavy kingdoms really often feel so limited. It's like you can't do anything interesting. Well, yeah, I think it's lab. We didn't get militia yet. Ow. Yeah, it's starting to look like maybe the labs will run. Still think I'm going to go poacher. Ah, rude. Okay, we can afford a lab and trash a copper. Ah. Well, there's the last lab. We're down to our last estate. It's sitting on top of our deck. All right. You could go ahead and province here. Wait, no, that should be. Oh no, sorry, we discarded an estate. Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's a copper. Whatever. I think we probably do just go ahead and province here. Get out ahead on that. We have fewer labs, but I think greening first is just going to be an advantage here. If we're going to apprentice something other than the estate, it's probably poacher. Okay. They've apprenticed their estate. Their last estate. I think. Do we apprentice the estate or do we apprentice the poacher? It's actually not even because so much about the VP. It's more about like just trying to make sure that we see our money and see our militia. Yeah, I think it's poacher. Ouch. Well. Well, we still have the estate as an advantage. We could get another apprentice now. There's not that many turns left, potentially. Yeah, I think that's what I want to do. Okay, do we keep the estate? We have an apprentice coming out, right? I don't. I think we do. Okay, well. Okay. Hmm. Okay. We have enough money in our deck that we don't need to play this militia. So, um, there you go. That is just, I don't know. Not fun. Not interesting. There is definitely like a skill to navigating a kingdom like that, but it's not. I don't know. I think I don't know that if they keep running kingdoms like this on like in the early week, I might start skipping that because it's just too like I don't know what I want to say. Too simple, I guess, but maybe not just too simple, but also like too similar. Like the because it's so like base heavy and like you I don't know how they generate the kingdoms exactly, but I think it seems like in the early days of the week maybe it's always like base plus something or something along those lines, and so like when you get mostly base cards, then you're gonna end up like with that same set of things over and over, or a similar set of things over and over. Whereas like on other days where it might be like I don't know, it's like, oh, it's Renaissance and prosperity or whatever, but but it's not always Renaissance and prosperity. So, this week it's Renaissance and prosperity and it's heavy on prosperity, and maybe the kingdom is simple because you just get a bunch of treasures or whatever, but it's a different simple than the next week if the next week has a simple kingdom because it'll be like a different set, right? So I don't know. I don't find it very satisfying to play a kingdom like this um and to where you just like can't do very much like uh you you want to do the fun stuff, right? You want to get like a workshop so you can get a bunch of merchants, or you want to get a potion and get some familiars and then be able to get vineyards, or you want to get a bandit to get golds to apprentice, and it's like, but there's no time. You can't do anything. It's like, I don't know. I'm not. Yeah, so I'm not a fan of that being like a common experience. If it comes up every once in a while, it's fine. But if it's going to come up like, sort of every, seventh game, like, because I think it's like Monday is base and some other set, and maybe Tuesday is also. So like if you figure like one of those two kingdoms is like that, then if it's like once a week, once every 7 games, like that's too much. It's certainly more than you would run into in like full random. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess I could imagine that from TGG's perspective, the motivation here is that like you got a lot of people who are not so into Dominion, more casual players who might appreciate the more like straightforward linear kingdoms, either because they find the more complex ones overwhelming, or because it's like they're still learning, or they're just like know more of the cards or whatever. Like I can see why that might be like why that might make sense to set it up this way. But from my perspective, it's definitely like bleh. Like, I like Dominion, and so like even though I prefer the Dominion.games platform, I look forward to doing this because I get to play Dominion. But this one, it's like, oh, this isn't the Dominion I wanted to play. Oh well. Anyway, yeah, and it is also, I don't know, maybe I'm supposed to take the 5th lab. I don't really think so though. It's like if I take the 5th lab, I end up like behind on province tempo. When was the? I was gonna say I could have. The reason I'm bringing this up, if it seems like a total non sequitur, I was thinking like I could have easily just lost this game, as well. Like, and I'm trying to think about like why is that? Well, partially it's just because like you have relatively low control over the progression of the game here because you don't have like a lot of tools. But yeah, so if I don't take the province here and I take the lab here, I guess it's not clear. Maybe they wouldn't have hit 8 here, but if they had and then they take the first province, now I'm in trouble potentially. Although I did still have an estate, so maybe I actually would have been fine. Yeah. Okay, I could see the fact that I had an estate and they did well at the time. Had they trashed their third estate though? Yeah, they hadn't. Right. Okay. So right. So if I take the lab here, and we split the labs, but then like they get their second player, they get province tempo. We each have an estate. That is looking pretty awkward for me. Why did I end up behind on labs anyway? Apprentice, silver, poacher. And then I only hit 4 here, and I get a poacher, and they get a lab. Maybe that's the entirety of it. I buy a lab, they buy a lab. I buy a lab, they buy a lab. I buy a poacher again. They buy a gold, which I would have bought a lab. I was thinking that at the time. I don't think I said it, but I buy a lab, they buy a lab. I buy a lab, they buy a lab. And then I buy a province. Yeah, so yeah, I think it's just that I had that one turn or 2 turns where I hit 4 early where they never hit 4. They just hit 5 every time. So I guess that's why. And that's the sort of thing that could lose you the game, even as player 1, even if you're not doing anything wrong. And I mean, they got to buy a poacher instead of a silver on turn 4, which might have been a contributing factor to that as well. Just because, poacher is not per se better at hitting 5, but it is cycling your deck. It's poacher is in some ways could be very marginally worse because if you still have estates in your deck, and the apprentice, if it's trashing a copper, that isn't increasing your money if you draw that, but obviously like being able to find your labs and stuff like helps. Yeah, I don't know. I think I was validated to take the silver over the merchant because we never really got to the point where we were drawing everything up anyway. But yeah, I think the poacher is a little better than the silver on turn 4, and then they hit. I mean, the fact that I hit 4 a couple times after that, I think is mostly just coincidence with that. I don't think it's because of the silver, like having to take silver instead of a poacher. But yeah, so I fell behind on the labs. So that's like, it's kind of ironic, I guess. Like I fell behind on the labs, and therefore I had to province instead of taking a lab. But I think that basically is the case, because if I had been ahead on the labs, right? If I had 5 labs when they had 4 labs or something, like not that I would buy the 6th lab at that point necessarily, but just it would mean that like I wouldn't feel like I was behind when I was going into the greening phase, and wouldn't feel like I was at such risk of losing, whereas I definitely did here, and it was definitely like because I got behind in the labs, and I don't really think there was anything in particular I could have done to prevent that. But the one, I mean, maybe, I don't know, maybe taking the second apprentice earlier would have actually been better, but I kind of doubt it. Like, you need expensive stuff in the deck that you want to trash, and we didn't really have that going, like, at the point we were picking up the first lab. But I think the one choice I got to make that was a real difference maker was picking up that second apprentice rather than taking just like a duchy or something. When did I do that? Here, turn 13. We just shuffled. Turn 14, we shuffle. Don't see either of the apprentices. Turn 15, we see this like crap hand and bottom deck both of the apprentices. But then turn 16, we get to play both of them. Yeah. So like that did pay off. Even though like it could have easily paid off the turn before, and it could have been that we, the turn before we buy a province and we're up by 7 points, and the AI is just sort of stuck and buys a duchy. And then I guess at that point, it was like the game wouldn't be over, so in a way that's worse, but like we'd be in a good spot, because it'd be like, oh, we only have to get duchy to keep parity, and if we get province we win, blah blah blah. But yeah, it was still good enough, and I guess it was like maybe the one thing that I did that was like, okay, this is locking it in. Well, that and not trashing the estate, that last estate, which like put me I mean, it didn't end up mattering in a way, because I bought an estate on the second to last turn, but it could have mattered. And it put me in the position to do what I did. Anyway, that was more analysis than I was expecting to do after just complaining about how uninteresting the board was, but I stand by it. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.